Atari, Atari, it's my kind of vlog. Yes, it's time for more Atari again. Ooh, this time it's a Q&A with a coo, like a bird, like a pigeon cooing. And in this new Q&A, Atari VCS Chief Operating Officer, Michael Arzt, once again takes time to respond to a range of recent questions regarding the Atari VCS, discussing the company's approach as they prepare for the product's launch in fall 2020. Autumn, you mean? Autumn. It's called autumn. But in any event, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to happen anyway. So there's a picture of the Atari VCS, and I'm not going to go in depth into every single question because a lot of it is information I've covered before. So we'll just have a look and see what he says. Blah blah blah. This is an interesting one to begin with. How do you define the Atari VCS? Is it a game console? Is it a PC? Both? Is it a scam? What exactly does it do? Well, Mr. R says the VCS stands for Video Computer System. A nod to both Atari. Nod? You mean just rip off? Because you couldn't really think of anything else. Because it used to be called the VCS the original machine used to be a VCS, but then they changed it. Or in like America, it was known as the 2600. But in the UK, we always knew it as the VCS. But he says it's a fully functional mini PC that uses a very low-powered one. That uses a TV or any video monitor screen as a primary interface. Well, technically, the keyboard is an interface in a way that feels like a traditional console experience. That's why we've. Maybe if you had, wasn't there an Atari VCS game where you actually had a keyboard? I know you had the Star Raiders game where you had a sort of like a number pad. I remember having that back in the day. God, I so regret selling that. I have no idea what I even got for it, but I bitterly regret not still having it. But anyway, I can't turn the clock back unless I get my TARDIS next week. But I'm sure was there a keyboard extra they were trying to make for it? I can't remember. I know the ColecoVision had one, or they even have the Coleco Adam or Coleco. But did the Atari have something? I'm pretty sure the Atari did have something they were working on. Whether it came to fruition, I don't know. But they're calling it PC console hybrid anyway. Oh, it's making me long for the 80s. Oh, anything that makes me long for the 80s makes me wish I'd rather be back there. It was the time was much better. Oh, modern life is rubbish. But back to all this, and the Atari VCS is powered by an AMD Ryzen chip, blah blah blah, a modern x86 PC processor. So basically, what's in the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, etc., etc. But the Atari is considerably underpowered by comparison. In fact, it's about as well powered as a potato. We'll come to that later with when we mention the AAA titles. So the Atari operating system customized a branch of Debian Linux. Sounds like sort of B-movie star's name, Debian Linux, in Atari from Hell. They're running the Atari VCS dashboard, blah blah blah. And so users are uniquely able to install and boot from their own choice of OS in Atari's PC mode. But as it mentions later on, yes, you can add Linux, you can add Windows, Steam, Chrome, blah, blah, blah. But, for example, most people, if they're going to add an OS, they would want to add Windows. And Windows 10, I don't know how much it costs. Is it? Because mine just came with my PC. No, actually, Windows 7 came with a PC. Gets that old. And I could have had a Windows 10 with it, and I opted for Windows 7. But I was glad when I could upgrade to Windows 10 later, even if it is a bit of a pain in the backside. But Windows 10, you would have to pay separately for it anyway. That's at least 80 quid, maybe even 150 quid. I'm not quite sure what the price is, but yes, it's a pretty penny. That's on top of the $400 you're spending for this junk of crap. So it just goes on about how Atari VCS dashboard, PC mode, you can use the controllers that come with it. Well, sorry, you have to buy separately. How ridiculous. Who ever heard of a console where you have to buy separate controllers? I mean, sure, with the PlayStation and Xbox, you have to buy extra ones if you want, like a second one. But you always get one controller. You're not left with nothing. Ugh. Then they also include an open M2 SSD socket. So if you get an SSD and M2, you can add that in if you really need to. It's got 32 gigabytes of memory on the machine, as it will come up later on. But if you're just adding Atari games, You don't need the extra space anyway, because they don't take any space at all, pretty much. If you're uploading big games onto it, then sure you need to more memory, or you can just plug an external hard drive in. But yeah, it's a low-powered PC, and we'll get to how bad it is. I mean, I covered this in an earlier video, but you'll see anyway. Is the Atari VCS a retro console? He says no. We know some writers and consumers have compared the VCS to low-cost plug-and-play retro consoles. I think what he's trying to get at is that the Atari Flashback and whatever were cheap consoles, and this is only cheap by nature, not cheap in price, because it's like $400. Whereas those things were $100 each, and probably around $20 each in the sales now. But yeah, he's just trying to get away from cheap and nasty. But he does say that with every purchase of this thing, you get the Atari Vault collection of 100 classic games. Wow, that's worth a $5 in the sales at most. Yeah. While the VCS is not a retro console, we prefer the term retro-imagined. Yeah. What unique features would draw consumers to Atari VCS versus the PS5 and Xbox Series X? Well, you can spend $400 on the Atari VCS, or you can probably spend around $500 on the other two. I wonder which one people will buy. Which one will be left behind? And he says our game offerings will be different. Instead of focusing on a narrow set of expensive AAA titles, our stores will promote games made by smaller studios and treat indie developers like AAA publishers, because that's all that'll run on it, allowing users to discover some of the really creative work that is more likely to be lost in the mix on larger platforms. So, yeah, I'm all for indie games and supporting indie companies, but if this machine doesn't do anything else, what's the point? I mean, the PS5 and the PS4 even, and the Xbox One, they do indie titles, so you're not giving us anything new. And he says the big budget console games may land in the $70 price range. Well, we know the first year of console games, at least on the new units, are not going to be any more than $60 or around £50 in the UK, because they're all doing this smart delivery thing where they promise if you buy, for example, if you got PS4 now, you're going to buy PS5 later. If you buy the PS4 version, I presume it all comes on the same disc. You buy the PS4 version of, I'm trying to think of an exclusive that's coming out at launch. But okay, let's say if you buy the Xbox version, the Xbox One version of Halo Infinite, that will work on the Xbox One that you play it with. Let's say early next year you buy the Xbox Series X, it will upgrade automatically to the Xbox Series X version without paying any extra. Sounds great, but within a year, you can bet your bottom dollar, or pound, or euro, whatever, or drachma, are they still around? That they'll just ditch that idea. They'll stop making games for the PS4 and the Xbox One. They'll just make it for the newer consoles. That's what always happens, and then they'll charge $70 for each. So it's not going to happen just yet. But anyways, the titles in the Atari are going to be more affordable, for anything from $3 to $25 with no fees for online access. Well, yeah, it's not going to do anything for online access anyway. I mean, I don't see what Sony and Microsoft need to charge for just online gameplay anyway. I've never used that beyond sort of trying it out initially when I had my original Xbox and a little bit on the PC. But I mean, you need games to be accessing the internet anyway, because they always have to update things every 5 minutes. But yeah, I just don't do multiplayer anymore. But I mean, $3, fine, but what are you going to get for that? So, I mean, this does put us possibly in the realm of mobile gaming, but then again, the Television Amico, that's having games anything up to $9.99, and there's a lot of good games coming out for that. So Atari could have something, but if they're going to have anything coming out, why have they not shown any of it? All they've shown are things like, we'll get to it a little bit later, the AAA things, but it's not good for Atari, is it? Apart from the people who have already paid up on the Indiegogo, you're trying to get extra people to pay for it, and you've not shown them any reason to do so. No games. We're also working with several studios to introduce reimagined versions of Atari classics optimized for the VCS and the new joystick. Joystick's a new differentiator for Atari. There's nothing like it right now. Blah de blah de blah de blah. I mean, you can scroll down. That's the you just use a gamepad at this point in time. There's no point using the original joystick anymore. It's just I mean, it had its day. It was great back in the day, but things have moved on. You use controllers now, and quite frankly, you need. I mean, my like Xbox and PS4 controllers, they've got two. Is the red thing? Is that a a thumbstick? Has it got? Is it two thumbsticks? It's difficult to tell from this angle, but I mean I can't even remember now. But yeah, okay. Let's say if it's got two thumbsticks, then that's fine. You just stick with that. They just copy the Xbox controller then. But yeah, the original ones had its day a long time ago. So there's no point adapting anything to the wireless classic joystick. I don't think anyone will bother because it's had its day. They're talking about another game will be Missile Command Recharged. Yeah, with other games like it in the pipeline. I mean, the Recharge didn't look like anything particularly exciting. Just give me the original. Other games in the pipeline. What other games? If this thing's coming out in the next season, because we're now in summer, and if it's coming out in fall or autumn, then it's a bit late in the day to be hedging your bets now. Will consumers find value in the Atari VCS? Ha! Yes, we think consumers will find value in the VCS. Well, duh. You're not going to say no, are you? But we're just talking about mini PC and blah, blah, blah. You can spend 150 quid on a mini PC that will play these games and other things. I've seen ones on eBay, like an i5 PC. Just, it'll do Fortnite, it'll do... I don't know how well it will do Call of Duty, whatever the free one is. But then again, this is also trying to, play that game, which is one of the AAA ones they claim to be playing. And when we saw it, it was a hideous mess. But yeah, it's just. I'm getting depressed just talking about it. In this section, as well as talking about games, and they also mentioned streaming apps and entertainment services. They'll keep the Atari VCS more affordable in the long run for families. But if you're a family and you want to watch Netflix, Amazon, and all those things, you've already got access to all of those. You'll find a way. You don't need a $400 machine to get there. You can get. I know. There's there's the Amazon Fire Stick. That's it. I presume Netflix does the same thing, or is that just a smart TV? I don't know. I just watch it through the PC, which is through to the TV. But I imagine there must be a stick available. You just plug into the TV. It sounds straightforward enough, and so people will get that anyway. They don't need an extra machine to do it in, because you put the stick in the HDMI socket on the TV. And then it draws its power from one of the USB ports. Job done. Doesn't need to be plugged in separately anywhere. Can you tell us more about your customer profile? Who will buy the Atari VCS? Well, he talks about the people who have already paid out for it, are people who are classic Atari fans, both active and lapsed gamers. Well, they were drawn by the name, but this is not the original Atari, but not by a long chalk. The original Atari has long since disappeared and gone defunct. This is just 2 or 3 people running with the name. Says the customer will also be thrilled to have the Atari VCS as a single source for all their streaming services, so they no longer have to juggle 2 or 3 remotes and devices. Well, I don't think people do that anyway. You'll either go Netflix or Amazon or one of the others. You won't pay out separately for lots of different services. People just haven't got the money on it, especially at the moment with the economy tanking the way it has due to what's happened. Again, he says adults are interested in retro reimagined products that offer modern capabilities of technology and retro flavoured wrapper like a present-day Jeep or Mini Cooper. It's not those. I don't drive those sort of cars anyway, but it's just he's really, really reaching here. He's utterly reaching. They've got the $3 million. They're not going to deliver any products, and if the Atari VCS comes out, I will bare my bottom in Dixon's window. Says the Atari brand has cultivated a thriving culture of hobbyists, creators and modders over its nearly 50 years. Well, Yeah, but people aren't going to people who are going to mod and create stuff, they'll just use the PC now. They're not going to buy an extra machine just to do the same thing on. Says Atari will also be a great choice for families and children. Parents looking for a gaming system with affordable creative games and learning tools will be drawn to the Atari VCS by the lower price point of content in our store and the lack of an annual multiplayer subscription which can add $60 a year to the cost of most consoles. Well, yes, it can, but it's likely that Xbox will be getting rid of theirs, just sort of amalgamating it all into the Xbox Game Pass. And quite frankly, the PlayStation should do the same. They have PS. Well, they have PS now. I mean, I subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I made a video June last year when it came out, and I mean now they've stopped you from being able to buy a year's worth of Xbox Live Gold. But what I did at the time, I made the video about it. I bought 3 separate years worth of Xbox Live Gold. If you bought it from Xbox's store, it would be like 50 quid each for a year, I think. But from there was like websites like CD Keys and Instant Gaming, and I bought the price kept changing as I was doing it. So I used to both sites, I think, and I got it for around about 120 quid for the 3 years, and then it was like $1, so 83p, just to upgrade to Ultimate. So around about 121 quid to get 3 years worth of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which works out, I think, about £3.50 a month, something like that, which is fantastic value. And you get all the online gaming if you use that, and just the free games that come out each month. And yeah, so PlayStation are really going to have to up their game if Xbox ditch the Live Gold and just sort of amalgamate it all into Ultimate. Then they ask what are the specs of the Atari VCS and what's it capable of without modifications. It says it uses the AMD Ryzen, etc. Zen processor. The chip was introduced with April 2019, and the VCS is one of the first commercial products to feature it. Well, Zen processors are featured in PCs, so I wouldn't say it's commercial, one of the first commercial. Maybe for that particular chip, but people are not that fussy. They just buy a chip that works in the PC, and quite frankly, the chip that's in their PC will be better than this one. Obviously, we've got the VCS 400 and the 800 models. The 800 come with a standard 8 gig of DDR4 RAM and 32 gig memory stick, or memory SD card rather. There are 4 super fast USB 3.1 ports, so you can connect external storage space, external hard drives, add the internal M.2 SSD drive, and you can upgrade the RAM as well if you want to, but you won't really need to. It says that the slots have been tested, so you can put 64 gig of RAM in the machine, but you're not going to be using this machine to render videos in Adobe Premiere Pro. They would benefit from 64 gigabytes of RAM, but then the rest of the machine would be woefully underpowered. So it's not, people are not going to use it for that, quite frankly. They'll just buy a PC. In this section, they talk about how if you bought a ray tracing card, you can spend $400 on that graphics card for that. Yes, that's true. And yes, this machine, if it came out, is $400. But, this machine wouldn't know what to do with a ray tracing card if it jumped up and bit it on its bum. I mean, the video footage of Call of Duty, whatever it was, a Warzone, that was it. It was just dreadful. It's choppy and awful. This thing couldn't start the national anthem. It's awful. Here they compare prices to things from Apple, A12 processors and the new iPad. And I mean, quite frankly, if you buy a tablet for $800, you need your bloody head read. I mean, Apple sell mobile phones at $2,000. You need your head read if you buy one of those. Just, none of them have even got a frigging keyboard. It's just, I mean, okay, you couldn't really carry a keyboard around with you with a mobile phone, but even for a tablet, it's a joke. It really is. But then Apple they overprice things because the people who buy Apple stuff will buy it regardless because they're just brain dead sheep. And then they're asked if they'll do AAA titles, but they're going to feature anything like Halo or The Last of Us. The Last of Us. Can you imagine it doing The Last of Us Part 2? The quality of the graphics on that is immense. And it looks better than Halo Infinite, quite frankly. But this is... They can't even run Call of Duty Warzone. It can't. It's just this is a joke. It's a joke of a machine. And they say not at the moment. Well, not ever. Not ever. It's just... Unless you replaced it with the completely different internals and a bit more memory than the 8 gigabytes you get with it, then well, it's not going to happen. Let's face it. Let's talk about Antstream Arcade. Do you really need to stream retro games online? Same as you might stream Netflix? No, you do not. I don't know what the point of that is. I've mentioned before, I did try to use it when they were at Play Expo Manchester last year, but then the thing went down and they never got it working again. That was towards the end of the Sunday. And then this was about, the place was open until 6 o'clock, and it was, what time is it now? It was about 4:30, I think, at this point in the day when it went down. Just the time when I wanted to use it and found time for it. It went down. And they said that, well, we're going to keep trying, because it's only just gone down. We'll keep trying. We're here till 6, so, if you come back to us a bit later, we'll hopefully get it up and running for you. And I went and played some other games, came back about 5:15, 5:30. They'd all packed up and buggered off. So, yeah, great Antstream, nice one. Finally, is there anything else you can tell us about the Atari VCS or the launch plans? Well, yes, there is. We expect to announce online and or retail sales of the Atari VCS in select countries soon. Yeah. Tell it to the trees, Mr. Arzt. And this has had 2 responses. I looked at it when there was 1 response, and you wouldn't believe who that was from. Who does it from the side now? That's interesting. So Mars, that's the one that was there first. Excellent. He's ever the Optimus Prime. He's ever the optimist. Benjamin Stanley says, "Hey Atari, got a question or two about input latency and input mapping on the Atari VCS. For games such as fighting games where input latency is important to keep as low as possible, how well does the VCS perform? Can you give us a number in milliseconds? I use Unreal Engine 4 and want to develop a game for the VCS. Will there be a plugin of sorts to expose the VCS input mappings to Unreal 4? Well, they've not replied as of yet, so that was 2 hours ago. So I wouldn't expect to reply anytime soon. And as a whole, the whole thing's only got 76 slow hand claps. So yeah, it's depressing, isn't it? Anyway, whatever you think, please post a comment below. But in the meantime, please like this video and share it with your friends and subscribe if you haven't already. Click on the little bell for all the notifications and cue Genesis.